What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I have yet another gay dating app story for you, and this one is for the books. So I matched with this guy on a dating app, and I thought he was handsome. I liked his bio description, like the things that he said just seemed genuine and likable enough, and I thought I want to get to know this guy. So we started talking, and early on I was already like, there was nothing wrong about the flow of the conversation, but I noticed that it was kind of me driving the conversation and asking questions and being inquisitive. And his reciprocation was really just like, oh, how about you? Like a lot of like, and you, about the same question, instead of having, a more unique sense of curiosity, I guess. So I wasn't like that enthralled by the conversation, but then within 2 days of messaging, he said, hey, I want to meet you. Let's set a time to meet. So I was really turned on by that because, as I'm sure many of you have experienced with dating apps, oftentimes you're talking back and forth for days, for weeks sometimes, and nothing happens and there's no plan to meet. So I liked that he was setting that intention, right? It felt very proactive. And so suddenly I became much more interested. So then talking about planning this first date, the first thing he said, well, we established that we live in different parts of Miami. I live on the beach, he lives on the mainland. Now, if you're not familiar with Miami geography, basically the beach is on an island. So it's not like it takes an hour to get to the mainland, but you have to cross a bridge, and depending on traffic, it can take anywhere. With zero traffic, I would say it takes 25 minutes, which is not bad, but with traffic, it can be a lot more, like 40 minutes, even more. So once we established that we live in different places, he said, well, I only have my electric scooter right now. Can you come to me? Can you come to the mainland? Now, here's the thing. I don't mind at all going to meet somebody, meeting halfway, or even going all the way to their side of town. But what bothered me was the request, I guess, because it made me think, are you just too lazy to get an Uber? Do you not want to spend the money? Like, why do you feel the need to have me come to you, right? So I said, I'm happy to come to you, but just FYI, I don't have a car either, so I'd be Ubering. And I said that on purpose to see how he would respond. Would he say something? Would he show some self-awareness of, oh, I didn't realize, well then let's meet halfway, or even better, like, hey, how about, this place in my neighborhood that I really want to show you, but, drinks are on me, right? Something to show some level of charm, right? Or courtship or thoughtfulness. That didn't happen. Instead, he was like, oh, okay, well, what if we go to this place, which of course is a place in his neighborhood. I thought to myself, this rubbed me the wrong way, but try to be open-minded, be flexible, don't jump to conclusions, don't assume the worst. Like, for all you know, he's one of those people who doesn't like to Uber because maybe he doesn't want to be driven by a total stranger. Like, you don't know somebody's backstory, somebody's past. So I thought, don't be closed-minded, be easygoing, go with the flow. You don't mind going to the mainland, so go to the mainland and have this date. And if it's not a fit, it's not a fit. But it stayed in the back of my mind as something that just kind of irked me. So we planned the date for a few days ahead of time. So in the meantime, he checked in a few times and made conversation, which was nice. But a few things that he said, again, were like, it felt like a red flag, but I didn't want to be too judgmental. For example, he mentioned at one point that he was going to celebrate 420, April 20th, which for those of you who don't know, that's considered like pot day, marijuana day, I guess, for potheads. So he said that he was going to celebrate it with his roommates. That for me was like a twofer. Because first off, I'm like, roommates? Like, he's the same age as me, early 30s. I am at a point where I don't want to date somebody who lives with other people. Like, we're not in college. I don't want to have to sneak into your bedroom and, like, if we want to do stuff or if we want to have privacy, we must hang out at my place. Like, I'm not in college anymore. You know what I'm saying? But again, I thought, what are you going to do? Cancel the date because he has roommates? And then on top of that, the weed thing, I just felt like, I have friends who smoke weed. It's not like I've never smoked weed, but if you celebrate pot day and you say it so casually to somebody that you're going on a first date with, that probably means that you smoke pot consistently. And I just don't know that that's a lifestyle both this and the roommate thing for me are like lifestyle differences. Like I think it's just two different modes of being and operating. So that plus the Uber / electric scooter thing, right? At this point, I'm like, fuck, I don't really want to go on this date anymore. So I already was dreading the date before it even happened, which should not occur, right? But again, I thought you're being judgy, you're being closed-minded, and it's important for me to be intentional as well, right? So I agreed to this date, and I thought, if somebody agreed to a date with me and then they backed out last minute, I would be annoyed. I would be irritated. I get very turned off by flakiness or people who are not intentional. So I thought, you set an intention, commit. Commit to the date. It's not like you have to get married to the guy. You're gonna go get a few drinks, meet somebody new, be open-minded, right? Again, be open-minded. So the day of the date comes, right? And again, I have to tell you, the whole day, I was kind of dreading it, and I was secretly hoping he would cancel because I just wasn't in the mood. And the thing is, I was moody about other stuff, so I just didn't feel like going through, the minutia of a first date with the small talk, and like I just didn't feel like going on a date, period. But I think because these things kind of rubbed me the wrong way about him, I was even more disenchanted about going on a date. But then about an hour before we were supposed to meet, he sent me the address of the place where we were going to meet. And I already knew where we were going, right? I was just gonna enter it into the Uber app anyway. But the fact that he did that, I really appreciated. And it kind of made me perk up. I thought, okay, that was kind of sweet of him. Maybe you're just in your head, don't overthink it, show up, you're gonna have a great time. So I show up, I text him and tell him I'm there a few minutes early. He responds almost immediately to tell me, okay, cool, I'll be there in 15 minutes. Again, right? Instinct. This instinct in the back of my mind, I just was irked by it because I thought, if you know you're going to be 15 minutes late, but we're supposed to meet in a few minutes, that tells me you probably haven't left yet because you live in the neighborhood. I'm in your neighborhood. But also just the lack of humility or self-awareness to be like, oh shoot, I'm running late. It just felt very casual to me to have that mindset for a first date. Like, I don't know you. You're some stranger from an app. Just irked me, right? But again, I thought I'll just have a drink by myself. I'll wait 15 minutes. 15 minutes is not a big deal. I have myself a drink. I'm sitting there waiting. 5 minutes go by, 10 minutes, now 15 minutes, now 20 minutes. And now I'm starting to like boil on the inside because I'm just thinking back, like, it cost me $25 to get here in an Uber, so it's going to cost me $25 back. So I'm spending $50 in an Uber to come see a stranger in his part of town that he asked me to go to. And now he's over 20 minutes late to a place in his neighborhood. Here's the thing, shit happens, right? There's traffic sometimes, if you have to park, that can be a headache. I've waited more than 20 minutes for a guy on a date before. The difference here is I'm coming to you. To me, if somebody's like exerting themselves for you, not even meeting you 50% of the way, meeting you 100% of the way, there's just like a basic, civility, a basic sort of fundamental respect that should be there now to meet that person back on their terms, I guess. Does that make sense? So it wasn't even being 20 plus minutes late that bothered me. It was the fact that you have no excuse really to be late. This indicates that you left after the time we were supposed to meet. That is so disrespectful. So I'm boiling on the inside, and now it's like time is slowing down. Like every minute feels like an hour. So it's now 21 minutes, 22 minutes. And I thought, you know what? Fuck this situation. Fuck this guy. On top of being annoyed that I came to him, now I'm waiting for him. And I thought, I'm gonna finish my drink. If by the time I finish my drink, he's not here, I'm dipping. So I finished my drink at about 25 minutes. I darted out of there and I walked a few blocks to get a drink somewhere else. And then I thought, because of my own paranoia, I thought, with my luck, I'll run into him somehow. I just have to get out of this neighborhood. Get me the fuck out of this neighborhood, his neighborhood. I call an Uber, and as I'm calling the Uber, he calls me, the guy, the date, to be like, okay, I'm here. I decline the call because it's over. Like, I just want to escape at this point. Fight or flight, fight or flight. Calls me again. I'm entering the Uber at this point, and I don't answer the call, but I text him and I'm like, hey, I'm in the Uber. You know, this rubbed me the wrong way. I waited 25 minutes for you, even though I came to you, to your neighborhood. Like, that's fucked up. I just spent $50 on Uber. I will say he was actually very respectful in his response. He said that he totally got it and he understood that I was setting a boundary, but that if I was open to it, he would come to meet me anywhere at that point, that he would have spent the money on the Uber back, blah, blah, blah. My whole thing is all this is talk. Talk is cheap. You know, then he sent me a message on the app later to be like, apologies again, and thanks for helping me learn a lesson. Sweet enough, but my whole thing is, I don't want an apology tour. I just want somebody who knows how to act appropriately from the beginning. But honestly, I think I was mostly angry because I felt that it was my fault. Meaning, I ignored what felt like a red flag because I was trying to be open-minded. And this idea of trying to be more open and then the universe kind of slapping you back in the face really bothered me. Like, it bothers me when I try to be more flexible or less judgy, and then I find that I should have actually been just as judgy as I was from the beginning. Like, that doesn't feel good as a lesson to learn. But ultimately, I felt what I needed to feel and what I needed to know came out before we even met. But I wanted to give this guy a shot, right? So I then ran off to a bar in my neighborhood in Miami Beach. I watched the sunset and was just kind of processing this. And I quickly posted on Instagram because I needed some distraction / I'm not gonna lie, a little validation maybe. And I posted on Instagram, hey, if this happened to you, if you were supposed to meet somebody for a first date and they asked you to come to their neighborhood and they're almost half an hour late, would you stick around or would you leave? Most people said no, I would leave, like over 70%. But what I found fascinating was that all of the yeses, like yes, I would stick around, were men. And most of the people who said no, I would get out of there, were women. So I do think there's something about this that is like related to people's sensitivities, to our innate sensitivities. Also courtship, right? You expect, and that was kind of one of the takeaways for me, is like, I can't force something with somebody who I can tell from early on is not as thoughtful as I am. And I care so much about thoughtfulness, attracting that even in friendships. And I came to the conclusion, like, this guy's not a bad guy, right? And I didn't think that in the moment either. It's not malicious, it's not intentional. This is just somebody who operates on a totally different wavelength than me, which was exactly the instinct I had before we met. So again, the lesson for me is this one's on me. This one's my fault because I felt that we probably aren't gonna jive, and yet I lost time and money out of it and then went home angry. Like, it's really ultimately, like, I have to take blame in that. I'm curious how you guys feel about this idea of lateness with dating.